Okay, everybody, welcome to Homeschooling 101 by Alberta Homeschooling Association. This is pretty well for the upcoming year of 23-24. Welcome to all of you. Some of you are very new to homeschooling. A lot of you are contemplating, probably sitting on the fence, and some of you are veterans and just want to see what's new. So that's good. Welcome to all of you. So we're going to run through a presentation tonight, and then we're going to have a Q&A. So I want to assure you, you're already a veteran. When you give birth, you are a teacher, and you have been doing this for at least 5 years before kids go off to formal education. So you are good at teaching. You're a parent's a teacher. You're fantastic. You have everything you need to keep on going until your child's 18 if you want. So this is me. I'm Judy, and I my work is as a family life educator, and I also do educational consulting. I am certified in the brain course, the growing brain, and various other programs. So I love sharing about how children develop, and especially in that cognitive area. I'm the proud parent of 4 university graduates. We have been very fortunate, and pretty well, I pulled my first child out at age 7, grade 2, and we have not looked back. And I'll talk a little bit about our background later. We are unschoolers. So we started off homeschooling, and then the kids wouldn't listen. And then we kind of just slid into play and unschooled. We let the kids just learn whatever they wanted to learn. We did more of a self-directed high school program, and then the kids went off to universities. So it's been great. So I've written a book called Unschooling to University. It's a free copy if you want to pop $20 in the e-transfer mail to me to cover Canada Post. Oh my gosh, they're so pricey these days. And the Happy Homeschooling Handbook contains all the information in tonight's webinar, but very, very much more detail. Okay, so I'm just going to go over the basics tonight, but if you really want to learn the details, feel free to order our book. It's on the website, and you can, just get it there. Okay, we're on Facebook. Obviously, you found us somewhere there. We think teachers are amazing. Absolutely. They work hard for the money. They do the best they can do, but a lot of us are dissatisfied with the system. Not just the teachers. The teachers work in a system too. And believe me, a lot of them are not satisfied either. So that's the way it is. So why choose home education? A lot of people look at it for very, very different reasons. Maybe their child's being bullied, their child has special needs that is not being met in the classroom. That was me. Academic delays, academic very advanced, too advanced for the curriculum. That was one of me too. Busing is too long. Maybe they want a more faith-based education. When we do this at libraries, we get a lot of families who just want to travel. And they're looking at it for their little babies in the car seat, and they're looking ahead to what they want to do. Some parents have medical concerns about their children. Some kids are in elite sports or arts programs that they don't have time for school. And it's just because of the current school situation. One of our reasons was we wanted to travel, and some other reasons. So this is a picture of Hiroshima. So our kids are big world schoolers. We go all over. One thing you'll find is that kids don't need 12 years of school. They really don't. Maybe high school are the years that count. K to grade 9, the marks don't go anywhere. Even when your kids are in school, the marks go into a child's cumulative file, but it doesn't go on an official government transcript. Not until grade 10 and high school. So if your child has really bad marks this spring, don't worry. If they're not in high school, it's not going to hurt them at all. And then when you home educate, we don't give marks so they don't go anywhere anyways. So yes, kids do not need preschool or K-12 school. They can learn in the community, at home, and through many other methods online. This, you've probably seen this before, but this was a comparison of grade 12 diploma exams in the year before COVID shut everything down. It was comparing the #1 private school in the province to a private home education board, where this was unique because this board had mostly home education students. So we could, it's very hard to parcel out code 600 home ed students from online students, which are school students, in terms of how their diploma exam marks differentiate. But this year we could do it. And they only had a 2-point difference. And the interesting thing about this, of all those 138 students, they didn't follow the Alberta programs of study. They used whatever curriculum they wanted to use to learn those Alberta outcomes. So yeah, pretty impressive. And look how much money they save taxpayers and their parents. So very interesting. Okay, what kids need is more play and more free time. That's what they need. So these are basically the education choices in Alberta. And let me just, I got to admit more people here. There we go. So basically, 3 of these choices are school, and 1 of them is parent-controlled home education. Do parents have control on these 3 school options? Not much, no. The school has control. So when your child is 5 years old, you have authority over their education. You have that since birth. And what most parents do, 95% of parents, is hand over the authority to educate your child to a school situation. Okay, so it could be an independent school, it could be the public or Catholic schools, or it could be charter schools. But what parents do in home education is they keep the authority to teach their children. And although they may not have to teach, just because you're registering for home education doesn't mean you have to be the teacher. It means that you are taking responsibility for educating your child and providing a program, whether that's through Outschool or the nanny or any way you want to educate your child. So also what's unique is home education is governed under a different set of regulations than these other 3 schools. Home ed regulations are our Bible, and it's governed in the Education Act. We don't have to teach the 1,400 Alberta programs of study outcomes per grade, but everybody else has to. They have to. If they're getting funding to provide an education, schools have to teach the outcomes. You do not. You can choose whatever curriculum you want, whether it's field trips, videos, or computer games. You can use anything you want to teach. Now, here's where it got really mucky during COVID. What happened was school shut down. They went online. They made the kids go online. And everybody thought they were homeschooling, but they weren't. They were doing school based at home. So even though independent schools, public or Catholic schools, charter schools offer a classroom, they also offer print-based, or also called teacher-directed, or online. But the key point about that is it is school. You have no more authority than you would sending your child to the neighborhood bricks and mortar school. And they get funding to provide teachers to teach those programs. You're not teaching on these 3 segments. You're only on this one in this corner. Now, the deadline to register for this is September 29th. And once home education is unique in that you don't even have to go 100% in. You can go 50% in or 20% in. If you want to just get your feet wet, you can choose to teach maybe 1 or 2 subjects, and that's called shared responsibility. So you're only responsible for those 2 subjects, and you hand over the rest of the subjects to the school to teach. Or maybe you want to take it all on except math. So you let the school teach math, and you take on everything else you want to teach your child. And that's called shared responsibility too. You each are only authority over your bit. Okay, I hope that's clear. Okay, so you have a lot of choices in Alberta. And I think a lot of parents come from BC or Ontario where it's very, very, very simple. But here it's a little more complicated just because we now have 2 choices under home education. We have funded and non-funded. So this is kind of your decision tree. You have a child who you're concerned about, which is why you're here tonight. And you could either go one of 2 ways. So everything in this webinar, in the slides that is green, means home education. You're in the driver's seat. Everything I talk about that's in red means school controlled, school's in the driver's seat. Okay, so you can learn at home with your children under school if you want. It's called distance education, or it's called classroom if they're going to a school. And if you choose distance education, you can either choose online, or you can choose teacher-directed, print-based, or correspondence. Either way, your authority ends right there. Okay, they're either with a teacher online or through print-based correspondence materials. That's it. Now, that's cool. But so you decide you want more control. So what you're going to do is you have to decide next. Do you want to go the funded route, or do you want to go non-funded? So non-funded, all you do is notify the government, and that's it. You're done. Done. You don't have any of these more arrows to do. So you send a form into the government, tell them every year, you have to do it every year, and that's it. You don't have to have a plan. You don't have to have facilitator visits. But keep in mind, your child will not get credits for high school activities. Now, if you choose to go the funded route, and you have to be supervised, and you pick a homeschooling board who's very, very supportive, who's done this before, who specializes in supporting parents in home education. Okay, Alberta Homeschooling is a funnel to get you in, but then you get to pick what board you want. And parents, every summer, they evaluate their board and say, I might switch this year. This might not be working. Or they have a facilitator they love. We had a facilitator we loved for 12 years, and wherever she went, we followed her to a board, kind of like your favorite hairdresser. You just follow them to the salon that they go to. So if you're choosing funded, then you have to decide, do you want a secular board or do you want faith-based? And there's some of each, and you have to kind of decide that. And then you have to pick a philosophy. Do you want to teach? Do you want to outsource it to co-ops, to pods, micro schools, online courses? Or do you want the child to self-teach, which is called unschooling? Okay, so that's your philosophy. Those homeschooling boards have to support whatever philosophy you choose. If you want to unschool, yes, you still get funding, and you can decide to empower your child to learn. But on either of these choices, you have to send in a home education plan. It's a work in progress plan. You can change it anytime you want. Anytime you want to buy something or add a new activity, you just send in a new plan. And then last decision is, do I follow the 1,400 outcomes per grade, which is the Alberta programs of study, which they teach in schools, or do I want to go off and just follow the 22 home education outcomes, which are super flexible and gives you more leeway. So those are your decisions. So let's go into that a bit more. I got to let somebody else in here. Okay. So first, so let's say, are you choosing distance education or are you going to choose home education? We obviously recommend home education because you have the most control, the most choices. And I know it's super scary. Absolutely. Just like when you had a newborn and brought them home from the hospital and you were in charge. Super scary. But look at you now. You're a confident parent. Your child's thriving and healthy. You can do it. It's that first year is the scariest. And we are here as a Facebook group, as support. Your homeschooling board's going to support you. You're going to have lots of support. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to yell at your kids too much, but you're going to get through it and you're going to love learning along with them too. You're going to have a lot more fun. So, okay. So on a home education, if you're lucky enough to have your kids school with some of the homeschooling boards, you can stay with the same place and just file a home ed notification. So you're just going to change programs. One thing you should know is in home education, you can choose any willing board in Alberta. You can be in high level and go with a board down in Medicine Hat if you want. It's non-resident, so you do not have to pick Calgary Board of Ed or Edmonton Public. You don't have to, just because they're your resident school boards. You can pick anybody. Okay, so let's talk. Supported is funded. Unsupported is not funded. So we're talking green, which is home education here. Okay, so if you want funding, you got to notify before September 29th. If you're going unsupported, you can pull your kids out at any time and home education. If you want to pull them out in June, you can do it. If you want to pull them out September, October, Christmas, Easter, whenever, you can notify the government any day of the year and immediately pull your kids out and start home education. But for funding, you got to do it by September 29th. Then the board has to accept your child. They have 15 school days to let you know in writing if they're going to take your child on. This year, you get $901 in funding. Oh, and I forgot, unsupported, you don't have to wait for acceptance. They're not going to accept or reject you. They're going to accept your notification and that's it. The government doesn't want any more paperwork. So start right away. Don't wait for permission. Just assume they got it and go for it. Under supported, you get 2 visits a year with your nice, friendly facilitator. And they come once in the fall, sometime between October and December, and once in the spring, sometime between March and June. These facilitators, poor things, some of them have a caseload of like 200 families. So they have to schedule visits when they can. So if you have a later visit or an earlier visit, probably if you're new, they want to get out to you first, just because parents start panicking by October and say, I don't know what I'm doing. And you can call them up anytime and ask questions. They're there to support you and they really want to make you succeed. And when you notify, you have to have a written home ed plan. Now, we have templates for every grade on the Alberta Homeschooling Facebook group. Just go in the files section. They're on there. They're also on the Alberta Homeschooling website. So the templates, very simple templates to cover those 22 outcomes. You can make it your own. And what a lot of homeschoolers do is just use the same plan year after year and just change what your child's going to be doing. It's very, very easy. Shouldn't be more than 1 or 2 pages. Yeah. And if your child's high school level, then it's a little more complicated because now it's not grade based, it's course based. So they would get credits through Section 6 of the Home Education Act, and they will get a high school government diploma. They'll apply to universities. The universities don't even know they've been homeschooling because all the schools just report credits through a school code. So they won't know, not one bit. Yeah. And each year you have to do this. Okay. So every year we used to ask our kids, well, what are we doing this year? Are you going online? Are you homeschooling? Are we going to continue unschooling? Do you want to work on high school credits? What do you want to do? And every May, June, we start to really think, okay, what are we going to do for September and get that into place? So this is the notification form for unsupported home ed. Okay, so it says here, not supervised by school authority. These forms look exactly the same. So, and here's one for the supported with a homeschooling board. And it just says notification form. Okay, it's very confusing. This is a part that confuses parents on the notification form. So you have to decide if you're going to achieve the outcomes in the Alberta programs of study. Are you going to follow the government curriculum? I would suggest don't. Even if you are, don't check that box because in your spring facilitator visit, you just want to go over what you covered or not covered in the 22 solo outcomes, okay? And the beauty about this is year by year, the Alberta programs of study. This one is by the time they turn 20. So if you didn't get around to math this year, or your child didn't write one piece of written work this year, it's okay. They have until they're 20 to turn something in there, okay? So that's the beauty. You want to always check the second one, even if you're going to, and you could actually do both too. You could do Alberta programs of study in some subjects and maybe the solo regulations, the solo outcomes in other subjects too, okay? I want to read this off because this really scares parents. It says, parents, guardians who provide home education programs acknowledge that there are implications when they choose to use programs different from the Alberta programs of study. Students may not apply to a principal for high school credits. Students may not receive a diploma. What that means is you can follow the 22 home ed solo outcomes until grade 10. But if your child wants a diploma from the government, they have to switch over to meet the Alberta programs of study outcomes. So this use programs differently from the Alberta programs of study is critical, okay? It just means that if in high school, your child doesn't meet Alberta programs of study outcomes, they're probably not eligible for a diploma. But most kids do decide to meet outcomes for credits. And there's lots of ways you can do that is more personalized for children under home ed. For example, my daughter was very good at reading and writing. And for English 30, she didn't have to take a course. We asked the principal and said, she's so talented. She's written 4 novels already. How do we get through this course without forcing her to do all this busy work? And he said, well, just, write 2 essays, a critical analysis, a personal response, and we'll call it a course, write the diploma exam, and she's out of there, right? So it's much more personalized, much more flexible. Okay, and then a few points about choosing a board. You want to save your receipts. So most boards will accept receipts from January 1st onward. So if you have receipts from last January, put them in a box. In October, you're going to start claiming for funding. If, let's say, this year goes really bad, and you think, okay, next year you're going back to school, or you want to put them in school back by Christmas, you can do that. And school's not going to test your child. No worries. They're not going to be behind. In fact, they'll probably be ahead. But they'll go into the grade of their age. So if you homeschool grade 3 and next year you're putting them back in school, they go into grade 4. No problem. And new this year is $450 funding for home education kindergarten. Yay! That is something Alberta Homeschooling has nagged the government for a long time, and we got it. Yay. Okay. Now let's talk about picking a board, because everybody has that on their mind. Should you pick your resident board or your non-resident board? The thing I have discovered is resident school boards are very territorial. I'm going to just pick on CBE because I love CBE, and a lot of my kids were in their first home ed program. So let's say you're in a Calgary Board of Education school. Well, not you, your child. It's easier probably to move from school to the home ed division and back than it is to move from Calgary Board to an independent school in Lethbridge kind of thing, because it's different divisions. Okay. So that you may want to pick that more. Yeah. One thing to be aware of, if your child is currently registered in a school of choice, so French immersion, specified programs like traditional learning center, and you're going to pull them out to home educate, you might not get them back into their spot in that program. Okay, just be aware. They can always go back. The public schools will always accept them back based on their availability. So they may move schools, but they will always accept them back at any time. But you might not get back into your program that you've chosen. Okay. Why would you choose a non-resident? Well, a lot of them are very experienced in home education. They have home educated themselves, the facilitators. They're very knowledgeable about practices and regulation, and all have to be supportive. Okay, they all have to be supportive. So who to pick? You have to pick your home education board by September 29th. And if you're choosing distance education, that's school. So you have to choose by September 1st. Okay. Yeah. So it's really good to look at the programs that all these boards offer. Like if you wanted online, you probably wouldn't go with an independent school that's primarily home education. Okay. If you want shared responsibility, maybe go with some of the bigger boards that are offering that. Look at their funding rules. Now, the government has put out funding rules, but the boards have some over and above the government rules, and that's critical. Some boards have 1 or 2 rules of funding reimbursements, and some other boards have like 2 pages of rules. If that's important to you, maybe pick your board based on that. If you have younger children, you might want to look at what activities they offer for home education parents. Do they have Halloween parties? Do they have mid-year learning celebrations? Do they offer parent-run activities? Things like that. You want to look at, do their staff have professional development in home education? How much do they know about home education? For example, most home educators don't want to go out in the evenings and do activities. We want to be done by the day and have our evenings to ourselves. And be sure to talk to people who grumble as well as people who rave about school boards. There are people who just think their board is fantastic, and other people who hated that board, but won't complain about it on Facebook. So be sure to talk to people. But keep in mind that it's so individual what people want too. Some people like certain things, and some kids need certain things. I had 4 children enrolled in 4 different boards one year based on what they wanted. The little kids wanted more activities. The big kids wanted to be left alone. Some wanted online, some wanted shared responsibility. So yes, I had 8 facilitator visits that year and had to submit different receipts to different boards. It's a bit of a nightmare, but doable, right? You do what you do. High school, maybe if you have a child in high school, maybe pick one course like English 30 and go board shopping and ask them, what would my child have to do to meet Alberta Programs of Study outcomes and get credits under home education for this course? Okay. Yeah, and see what they say. Phys Ed 10 is a good one. What requirements are for that one? 1 year, we did Phys Ed 10 online, and my kids had to do 50 hours of writing assignments. 50 hours. Now, a high school course is only 125 hours, so that only left 75 hours for actual physical stuff. Whereas when we did it under home education, they got 124 hours of physical stuff and 1 hour writing a course evaluation. So just be aware. Okay, these are some generalizations on picking boards. The big boards, they're less picky about receipts because less chance of the government clawing them back. They sometimes offer more activities just because they have the scale of students and the infrastructure in place, but they do adhere to a very rigid system. They can be very schooly and not understand home education. And they have a lot of rules that are not really in the home ed regulations, like parents fill out report cards. No, you don't have to do that. Well, I picked the smaller schools. They understand home education because they've done it themselves. They help you with flexibility. If you want to be left alone, they leave you alone. They advocate to the government on your behalf. If they're worried that your Nintendo Switch is not going to be reimbursed by the government, they will go to bat for you with your reasons why that needs to be in your curriculum cache. They support unschooling, where a lot of the big board facilitators don't quite understand unschooling. And they have lots of suggestions to give you. So these are some of the examples of the large boards, obviously Calgary and Edmonton, Grand Prairie, Medicine Hat. Some are more home ed friendly than others. The ones that are on our website, we fully endorse. They have been around for years, awesomely supportive. So no problem going to those boards that are on our website. Some of the smaller independent school programs are these. Again, fantastic. They've been around for years, really know how to support home education. The yellow indicates that they offer high school home education for credits for government diploma. Okay, they will support that. Others, I don't think any of the large school boards do at all. So they think that if your child is going to get home education credits and a diploma, it should be done in a school or online. But yeah, my 5 kids didn't. And they loved high school. So know your child. That's the thing too. You know, the beauty about home ed is you can make it so much more memorable. They're not just sitting in a classroom reading, hearing, looking at pictures. You can go to the movies, exhibits. You can go on field trips. They can do so much hands-on, and that's 90% of what people remember, whether they're children or adults. I wish I could do this presentation a little more hands-on for you. I can't because of Zoom, but you would remember a lot more if it was hands-on and not just hearing and seeing. So really get to know your child, what their age is, what their temperament is, what type of learner they are. You will. You may buy the wrong curriculum in the fall, but that's okay. You'll learn. You'll learn how your child learns, okay? I talked about this already. Yeah. Now, yeah, talked about that. Okay, one thing I do want to say is when your child is age 12, that's when that prefrontal cortex really develops. That's when they start getting their abstract thinking skills, where they become really good at self-teaching math and theoretical theories and all that stuff. So even if you are worried, like for example, my math skills end in grade 8. I can do grade 8, that's it. Grade 9 to 12, my kids either self-taught, and they're very good at taking online courses and self-teaching. We got a tutor for when they were stuck. They're good at those kinds of things. But until then, kids are very much into experiential learning. Okay, so about age 12. This was on the Alberta Education website before COVID, and it says, in the field of online learning, few programs serve students younger than 10 years of age. And kids really, really need to learn through hands-on experiences, not so much workbooks and textbooks and assignments, but field trips, watching movies, discussions, play, toys, board games, all those wonderful ways to learn. You can do that at home because you only have a few students. A teacher in a classroom, can you imagine a teacher facilitating learning through board games for 35 kids? Oh, it'd be a nightmare keeping all the pieces straight. So you can do so much more at home than they can do in classrooms. So much. And get your child loving learning, okay? Okay, I just want to run through a few more things, and we may go over till about 8:30 if that's okay. If not, I will still, you can watch the rest. If you have to leave, you can watch the rest on the recording. So again, teacher-directed print-based. Now, those are school programs. Notice the red code, right? You do not teach. You're not allowed to teach these programs. It has to be taught by a teacher, or the materials have to teach the child, which means the child must be able to read, or they need a reader to read to them, and that's not you. If this program can't be delivered by a teacher or by materials, it is not expected that you teach. This is not home education. This is school, okay? And I find in reality, there's little teacher help. If you're considering teacher-directed print-based for any child under junior high, I would not do it. Absolutely, strongly recommend you don't do that. Kids need to be motivated. They need to be able to read. They need to be able to do a lot of their assignments online. And they need to hear and read Zoom instruction. If they can't do that, go with home education and you can be in charge, okay? Or go totally online and then they're in actual classrooms. But again, not until grade 5. Yeah, children's development didn't change. COVID changed the requirements, but it doesn't mean it's the best learning environment. Online, and parents, even of older kids, you need to closely supervise because they miss things, they don't know where to put things, and they're not motivated to stay on task. You have to be cracking that whip, until kids are about 13 to 17, they start getting that a bit better. But do you want to be that involved, right, with somebody else's agenda? Again, if you don't, it's better off go home ed. And if you don't get something done, you can say, no problem. Didn't get done. Okay, home education is best for all young kids at least age 0 to 12 because kids learn in a 3D world. It has the most flexibility. You can do the 22 solo outcomes. It's easy to take a year off and go world schooling. And every child learns without direct instruction. We unschoolers know that. They do. You can't stop a child from learning. Best learning is through play and activities, and you don't have to teach, you can outsource. And they can achieve a diploma if you meet the APS outcomes for high school. Okay, I want to talk, this is a little bit about unschooling. If you want to know more about unschooling, come to the webinar tomorrow night. That is given by me through Unschooling Canada Association. We'll talk more about what unschooling is, but basically it's kids learning through play. So where some kids go off to school or homeschool with curriculum, unschoolers just learn through play. And then around age, 16, 17, they may take some high school courses to get into their universities. That's what they do. The benefit of this is kids are motivated to play. You don't have to crack the whip for them to get work done. And it's wonderful just to have a very relaxed, stress-free family life. Okay, so we talked about that. And okay, let's talk about your home ed plan. This is the plan. These are the 22 outcomes. These are what you have to accomplish to teach your child by the time they're 20, age 20. So you put in your activities here and resources of what you need. So for example, let's say, where is the technology? Here we go. Demonstrate critical and creative thinking skills in problem solving and decision making. So in here, I'd put new computer, video games, board games, because I want to buy them. So you got to put them in here if you want to buy them. And then I would put the activities, and that's basically what those were. Learn through video games, board games, and learn to think critically. And how am I going to assess that? Observation. So there's lots of ways to assess. It doesn't have to be exams or quizzes. Your observation of your child's progress is a valid method of assessment, and the one that I used to use the most when I met with my facilitator at the end of the year. So I would talk to her and say, yes, look, he's reading a lot more this year. He's interested in books. I can see he's understanding what a variable is through his critical thinking. And she writes that down in a report. She doesn't need proof of it. Your observation is enough proof. Okay, so don't be worried about assessments. So you'll find these. This is the solo, so schedule of learning outcomes for home ed students. The 22 outcomes are here, and they're all over our website. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so this is your plan. How much time does home education take? It takes about 1/10 of the time of school because you're not dealing with a classroom of 30 kids. Elementary shouldn't take any more than 10 to 30 minutes if you're doing worksheet curriculum. Of course, you know, everything else in life is like reading and field trips are over and above that. Junior high school shouldn't take more than an hour a day, and grade 12 shouldn't take more than 2 to 3 hours a day. My kids did home education high school. They got full government diplomas. They all got the Alexander Rutherford Scholarship, which meant that their marks were 80 and over. They didn't spend more than 2 to 3 hours a day in meeting those outcomes on the Alberta Programs of Study. And no homework. Yay! A few of my kids went to high school, enrolled, and went for a week, 2 weeks, went for 6 hours a day, came home to 4 hours of homework a night and said, no way are we doing this. I'm going back to home education. And then they had a life. They had a time to find out what their passions were so that when they went to university, they kind of knew what they wanted to do, right? So where do you get hands-on materials? Like I'm always preaching, hands-on, experiential learning. Scholar's Choice, Education Station, that's an online store. Mastermind Toys has really good teacher stuff. Dollar stores, Toys R Us, all these are fantastic places to get things. This is an example of a hands-on material. And so up until grade 8, I never taught grade 8. I never taught math until grade 8 for all my kids, and 4 of them went into STEM programs at university, so didn't need 12 years of math. But actually, they got 12 years of math, but learned it mostly through play. And this is an example of a geometric volume thing and a net. So I would give the kids things like this to just play with. I didn't have a pre-planned lesson to give them or anything like that. They just played with it, did what they want, traced it, drew on it, cut things out. And then when I introduced it again in grade 8 math, they said, oh yeah, now I know what that is. But they had a concept of it first, right? A very experiential concept to apply to paper and how that would apply to volume in grade 8 math. Okay, socialization, not even going to answer that. We're not home educating, we're community educating. your kids are out there and about. They can still be friends with their public school kids. They just see them after school or weekends or summers. The beauty about home ed is it's so diverse. Kids are out there with all ages, all gender, abilities, cultures, religions, you name it. There's interest-based groups, Facebook groups. There's so many activities planned by parents. It's fantastic. Yeah. There's even homeschool girl guides, homeschool everything pretty well. Okay, who's your facilitator? So let's talk about this fall. Let's say you signed up for home ed. September 1st comes along and you start. Yeah. And then by September 30th, you haven't even seen your facilitator. You have questions. So most facilitator visits don't happen until after the count date of September 29th. That's the day the government gives your funding to your notified school authority. So schools do not want to put a lot of time into parents that have just switched at the last moment. So you won't really get into home education until October. That's when most people start anyways. September is still full of park days. And don't worry, you'll finish your grade. Like I said, it only takes 1/10 of the time, but we still want to enjoy the nice weather in September. So don't worry if it's October and you haven't heard from anybody yet. Okay, just as long as you do have your acceptance that the board has accepted you, keep that. So your facilitator is a certified teacher, could be a home education parent. They're your partner. They're not your spy. They're your partner, and they provide a supporting role. They want to know how to help you, how to make this a success, and they will resolve all your worries. Once in a while, you get a facilitator that doesn't really jive with your philosophy. Ask to change. You can change facilitator, call up the principal and say, send me someone who believes in unschooling or whatever you want to do. Okay. So your fall visit is mostly going over your home education plan, and keep in mind your plan, you can change it 40 times in the year if you want to. Probably don't, but if you want to, it's a work in progress, right? Which is kind of useless if it's so changeable. Your spring visit with your facilitator then is assessment. So they'll just sit and chat with your child and make notes. That's it. You can show them photos and videos if you want. That's probably the best way I kept track, was I took photos of things my kids made, certificates of classes they went to, did a building project at Home Depot, kept that certificate, those kinds of things. They might want to see 1 or 2 writing samples. We used our letter to Santa because we're unschoolers and my kids didn't want to write except one. Show them projects, and it's just a nice social visit. There's no marks given, and the parent gives an assessment. You just tell them, yes, my kids did well in science this year. This is what they did, blah, blah, blah. Or you tell your facilitator, no, this year we didn't do much in math. Sorry. Now, if your child's on distance education, it's school. They're going to have exams. There's no PATs, but the school gives a mark, report cards, and parent-teacher interviews. Okay, and there's no spring visit. They just do this in June. Okay, and there's no testing or marks ever on home education. No more, none. The only test your child will have to write is if they want grade 12 credit to go on to university for the core subjects. They do have to write the same diploma exams as everyone else. But grades 1 to 9, no marks go anywhere. These are things I use to keep track because I knew I was going to write a book, and I kept track of what my kids were doing. Like if I noticed that they were really interested in digging in the mud, I would write it down under science. That was an activity we did. So that by the time, and I just did it monthly, I sat down once a month and said, hey, what did we do this month? Oh yeah, we went on this WestJet field trip. Cool. We saw the inside of a plane, and I made a note of it. And that way I had something to toggle my memory at the end of the year. Again, if you keep records by your phone, just take pictures, keep them for a year. At your spring visit, just go through your phone and say, oh yeah, that's right. We did this wonderful outschool class on coding. That was really cool. And here's a picture of my child on the class, that kind of stuff, right? And that could be all the records you want. Okay, some red flags. These are things that you don't want to hear from. A school board is telling parents that they must assist the teacher in giving information to the child. On school programs, teacher-directed, print-based, you cannot teach. Legally, you can't. Okay, only teachers can. Boards that tell parents what curriculum they can and can't use, you're in the driver's seat. You can use whatever you want, whether it's video games, board games, you name it, you can use it. Telling parents that homeschooling is hard. No, you can't stop a child from learning ever. If they breathe, they learn. I have a great video to show you. Telling parents which methodology they should or shouldn't use. If you want to unschool, you can do it. You know best, and that school must support your choice. Telling parents how to parent. Telling parents how to handle their home education routines. Telling parents that children will not get a government diploma, transcript, or scholarships on home education. What they mean is, through our board, we don't support that. It doesn't mean that other boards will not support it either. They will support it. Find those boards. We have, if you go to the high school section of Alberta Homeschooling, we have a list of boards that will help your child get a government diploma on home education. Okay, I just want to show you a really cool video here for a minute. On children's learning. Watch this. So this is brain. Oh, how do I open this? Please open. Okay. This is learning. Learning is a biological process, okay? And children did not have learning losses through COVID. They may not have learned what the government agenda had in store for them, but they kept on learning through all other factors of their life, through their home life, through their other play, through just life experiences. So this shows you how neurons fire neurotransmitters over the synapse. And you'll see it. This is neuron here is sending that neurotransmitter right over this synapse gap right here, down this axon to the nearby dendrite of this neuron. So this happens a billion times a day, whether your child is studying a math workbook or whether your child is playing a video game. They are learning. And from the moment they take their first breath to their last breath, they continue learning. So every child is progressing, every child is learning, no matter who's teaching, what they're teaching with, every minute of the day. Here we go. This is learning in action. So whether you have a crappy year or a good year, your child's going to keep learning. So you cannot mess up home education. Absolutely can't. Okay, so just another, we're almost wrapped up here and then we'll take questions. It's like stepping off a cliff, right? You're only signing up for a year, not for life, and you're going to have lots of support. And we all homeschool until age 6. We all do. So what are the benefits?
I think
confidence and self-esteem from your children. They're away from a bullying situation. They're protected until they can be adults and grow up strong and able to resist bullying. They don't need to be bullied to learn how to handle bullies. They need confidence and esteem while their brain's growing. They need sleep. My high schoolers slept in every day till 2 o'clock, and that grew their brain. And I tell you, it makes much nicer high school kids. They're not snarky from lack of sleep. It's very relaxed. They have time for interests and exploring. They have close siblings. Yeah, there are days where there's nonstop fighting, let's be honest, but they learn sibling conflict resolution. You can put that in your home ed plan, what they learn. And the focus is on the family, not so much on the peer group, which is good. You'll have lifelong bonds. Great work habits, love of learning, great social skills, and a one-on-one education. How can you beat that one, right? Really. And I think our favorite was a great close family and siblings. Our kids are still very, very close. There's a 11-year age gap. And even though they live in different cities and countries, they very much are one another's best friends still. If you want a copy of the Unschooling book, feel free to just e-transfer me $20 to my email address and I can pop it in the mail for you. I really want to get that information out there. And it does have a lot on Alberta. Okay. So, and if you need to contact me some more, that's my email. Now, let's go back to the Zoom. Okay. We are going to take, the email. Okay. I'm sorry. I'll put it in the chat box. Why don't I do that? So it's all A's. Some people send it to Jarnell. There's my email address. Jarnall@shaw.ca. All A's. Okay. Oh, you didn't see the video. Oh dear. Oh, that sucks. Okay. I don't know how I can fix that one. Oh well. It was a video of neurochemicals going down brain cells. Anyways, sorry about that. I didn't see that in time. Okay, at this point, let's open it up for questions. Do you want to write a question in the chat box and I will address it? That might be better because we have a lot of people here. Okay. You know what I'm going to do? While we're waiting for questions, I wonder if I can show you the video now. We'll see. Yeah. Can you see the screen now? I think I am screen sharing, so maybe you can see it. There it comes down. That's learning. It's going, that neurotransmitter is going across that synapse right there from the axon of that neuron to the dendrite of this neuron. Isn't that cool? It's just, learning is biological. It is. It's every child learns. Okay. All right. We have questions. Okay, first question. How do I find what to teach my child? Curriculum. Okay, if you go with what you can do, I find the easiest way is buy those workbooks at Costco, those grade by grade workbooks, and loosely follow that. They're way more advanced than Alberta curriculum. And they need to fix Alberta curriculum anyways in the early grades. I mean, it's so developmentally inappropriate. But under home education, you can teach what you want. If you want to go ahead in math or go behind or you feel your child needs more work in reading, you can do that too. We have on our website under resources, we have, or under how to homeschool, we have what are popular curriculums on there, what people really enjoy teaching. So you'll find a list of that. But if you want to know what to teach your child grade by grade, we also have those on our website. Maybe I'll just go to my website here. Not my website, Alberta Homeschooling. Yes, okay. Under resources, okay, you'll find programs of study. These are guidelines. These are what to teach in each grade. And if you want it more detailed, you go to the Alberta Education website. If you have a child in high school and want to know, what do I teach under Bio 20? Go to learnalberta.ca and find the password from your school board your homeschooling board, and you can get in there and get the whole course of Bio 20. So you have to buy the textbook and your child can learn the whole course. Okay. So lots of ways to find curriculum. Our popular ones are on the other page here. So how to, I think we have some really popular curriculums on here, somewhere on here. Maybe it's on the first page. Or it might be under resources. Might be under resources. Okay. Next question. Are there more school boards than there were listed on the presentation? Is there an all-inclusive list somewhere? Yes, there is a list of every school board that offers home education from Alberta Education. But there's a lot of boards on there that no longer do. It hasn't been updated for I'd say about 10 years. So the other place to go look is right here. There's a list of most of the boards that are offering home education, plus other programs like shared responsibility, online, teacher directed, those ones. Okay. So here it says offers parent-led home education. Those are the boards that do, and most of them do. Okay, another question. If my child is born on January 1st, is he eligible for the new kindergarten pilot program? He would be 4 years old and 8 months on September 1st. Technically, yes, he just scraped in there. That's amazing. Wow, yeah. If he's 4 years old and 8 months on September 1st, you get funding for kindergarten. Yeah, and you just keep on playing for the year. Okay, my son turns 4 in August. Is it too soon to start kindergarten, or would you recommend waiting until he is 5? Again, 4 is a bit too early. Yeah, I mean, you can do kindergarten if you want. You just won't get funded for it, or you won't have to register for it, right? Yeah, but you can do a home ed program, or he's still kind of a preschooler. Okay, there's more questions in the top. Okay, I will go up there. Wondering if you know about home educated students having an opportunity to play on school sports team or participate in band choir program at a school while doing the rest of their courses at home. Good question. That's one we get all the time. It basically depends on your school. So, and the division. I know CBE, if you're in the Calgary area, does have certain schools that they partner with so that kids under their home education program can go to those schools and do those things. The school principal has a say whether they allow home ed kids in or not, and many schools will not. And it's too bad because they should. There should be more cooperation there, but it depends on the school's principal. That's the short answer. So if you notice a program in your neighborhood at your neighborhood school, go in and talk to the principal and say, you know what, we could do a shared responsibility here. And your kid could do music or sport, phys ed through them, and they could get partial funding. Or they might just allow your child in. Okay, what are your personal thoughts on pulling a child in junior high to start homeschooling? One who just doesn't seem to be jiving. I think junior high is a great time, even if you do it for a year or two. Then your child goes back to junior high or high school knowing that they have choices and that they're not forced to be there. Junior high is such a good time for discovering interests, having so much more free time to figure out what they want to do for a career, having time to have a lot of hobbies. And socialization in schools in junior high is the worst of the worst. Those are good years to just skip. We even had an education minister say that once, Lyle Oberg. He said the kids should just skip those junior high years. So yeah. Okay, I'm going to go to the top. I think there's some questions up there too. Okay, can't see them. Yes. Okay, question. How do you register for tomorrow's Unschooling webinar? Tomorrow's webinar is, I will show you, it's on Unschooling Canada. If you go to this website, unschoolingcanada.ca, and there's our info session tomorrow. Just click this link, sign up here, and you'll get in to that one. And it's the same time, 7 o'clock. And yes, you'll have access. Okay. So, okay. One question is, when can children start kindergarten normally? It's the same time as home education. They have to be 4 years old and 8 months by September 1st. So they have to be that age. Okay, so they have to be 5 years old by December 31st of this year to start. Okay, would it be possible to show the unschooling book as well, as we couldn't see the slides? Yeah, sorry about that. You can't see the slides. Anyways, there's the unschooling book. Okay, for the notification to be supervised, is it right that you submit it to the board of your choice? Yes, yes. Don't submit it to the government or they will go unsupervised. So no, if you want funding and you want support from a board, take it directly to a board. Do not go to the government. Do not pass go. Yes, and you're supposed to submit the home education plan at the same time, because when they accept you, they're also accepting your plan and your program for the year, right? You can make changes absolutely after, anytime after, but they have to have that. It has to be validated. The plan has to go with a notification form. Yeah. Okay, I think I covered those questions. Sports team. Starting home ed for my 13-year-old son. How best to transition from regular school all his life to home education? Oh, the great thing is, you just continue summer into September and October. Give him all summer to just de-school, decompress, maybe even September, right? Ease into it. But as much as possible, get him involved in planning out the year. What are some field trips he wants to do? Tell him it's only going to take an hour a day. Of course, if he dawdles, it might take longer, but, and then he has the rest of the day to do whatever he wants. And yeah, it's just fantastic. 13 was when my kids first started their formal math class. And we didn't do English or social studies or science until grade 10. So my kids had a lot of time during those years. Find some social time if you can get together with other homeschoolers and, we had a Minecraft day at our house on Friday afternoons, and kids could come over and bring their laptops and they'd all get around and play Minecraft. And it was such a treat for everyone to see each other every Friday. Parents would drop off, provide snack, and then go shopping or something. So finding ways to incorporate socialization and, opportunities for friendship in there too, I think. So, yeah, make it like summer holidays all year round. Hey, our son is going into grade 9 in September. You're going to use a home study program from the US. Can your child still get to university in Alberta with a US high school diploma? I can't answer that question because every university has the same requirements, but also different exceptions. So most Canadian universities, my kids applied to 10 universities in Canada. And most programs wanted 5 grade 12 courses, or they want 5 essay or the SAT exam equivalents. But it depends, right? It depends on the program. So for engineering, for example, kids would need 2 sciences and probably calculus. So they'd need physics and chemistry and calculus. For a nursing degree, they need chemistry and biology. That's pretty standard across Canada. But again, different universities have different diversity requirements. So I would contact a university that has a program that your child would be interested in and see what they say. Okay, question. Over course of our homeschool journey, we'll need to move throughout Canada due to the nature of our careers. We will start in Alberta, but may not stay here. Yeah, that's okay. As long as your child is here September 29th, which is the count day, then you can leave September 30th and go travel the rest of the province. So hopefully, if you're starting in Alberta, that's a good thing. Okay, any advice, resources for teaching an autistic child? I'm not very good on helping parents with kids on the spectrum. I don't have much experience with that. I do have experience with learning disabilities, and I found that everything is so adaptable. Like your child's going to do so much better at home than in a classroom that has rules and policies and routines, where at home you can have rules, policies, and routines, but adjust them to your child and what works for your family. So there's a lot of resources out there, and just finding out what works for your child the best. My advice is, if your child's not getting a concept, let it go. Again, the brain works all the time, and what kids can't get now, they're going to get in a month, or maybe next year, or maybe a few years down the road. I remember trying to teach my kids long division in grade 5. It was an exercise in frustration, and I gave up. I said, I'm not coming back to this. And somehow, 4 kids in STEM programs, they understand long division now, but when their brain is ready. And that's the key, is every child is like, a good analogy is like popcorn. Not you start cooking popcorn all the same time and temperature, and yet popcorn pops differently. Every child is different on when they get things, and you can be so personalized and flexible in what they get when, and letting it go, and then they surprise you and they got it and you didn't even teach it later on. So don't worry. Okay, how could home education possibly prepare a high school student for entry into the complex social structure of a formalized university program? Classrooms are incredibly complex in social dynamics, problem solving, and I would argue that most of what kids learn in a classroom setting is not the content itself, at least until high school. I understand the necessity for a child participating in community programs and sports to get socialized opportunities, but does this adequately prepare them for the highly structured, formalized post-secondary situations? That's a good question, and thank you for asking that. I would say, in talking to my 5 kids, that university is more like home education than any school classroom they were in. And all of them tried school for a little while, and they left school because it was too structured. There was no chance of personalization. There was a lot of bullying and a lot of immaturity. And when my kids did go to school, I even had teachers tell me they're ready for university. They're so mature. They're able to talk to anybody about anything. They look adults in the eye when they talk to them. And then, when they went to, for 3 of my kids, university was their first formal classroom situation, right? And they did fine. They understood deadlines. They really, really liked the socialization of university, because some kids were a lot more mature, some not so much, but and it was more ownership. And when you go to university, you own your education. No one's going to make you do assignments. They don't care if you show up. And that's the same way with home education. Kids learn that they're the ones who are going to benefit by learning. They're not going to be promised pizza coupons or marks. If they want to learn something, they're going to learn it for the pure joy of learning. And that's what university was like. They adapted so easily to university. And it was their first time away from home, which was kind of cool too. And I agree, university, you learn a lot more at university growing up, especially living in residence, than you would in a school classroom. Yeah. Okay, another question. How do I know which grade to register my child? Currently 5, turning 6 mid-November. So 5. So I would go grade 1. Yes, go grade 1. Yeah. Sounds good. Where do I find that Excel sheet with the school boards online? Can you share a link? Okay, it's all over the Alberta. I will share the link. Here it is. It's all over the Alberta Homeschooling website. I'll put it in the chat session here. There we go. There. Yeah, sometimes even I have trouble finding the link. Okay. If I homeschool for grade 9, but she returns to school for grade 10, am I disrupting her education by not teaching what they teach for that year? Absolutely not. A lot of unschoolers who don't do any formal education, those kids start high school and they start at grade 10 and they catch up pretty well within the first 3 months. Yeah. So even if you skip grade 9, you can go right into grade 10. And actually a lot of home education kids, in grade 9, they start going for credits in grade 10 credits in grade 9. They save up the work. And as soon as they go into grade 10 home education, their boards can report the credits because the work's all done in a portfolio. So grade 9 is a lot of school is filler time. It's redundant. It's going over things over and over again. And kids, they burn out in grade 8 because they've had too much coerced education. And that's sad because they're burning out in grade 8 and burning out in grade 9. And yet they should be gearing up for grade 10 because those are the years that matter. Grade 10, 11, 12, that matters for scholarships. Grade 12 year matters for post-secondary. Okay, so those are the years kids should be excited about learning and ready and go-getters, have the energy for it. So absolutely, I'd homeschool for grade 9 and grade 10. Yep, she'll just get slotted in. Okay, I think last chance for a question and we will call it a day. I'm going to go back. Where's my slides? There we go. Good. I hope that was helpful. Yeah. So we'll probably do this. The recording will be up on the website, so you can go over things that you thought you heard, didn't hear too clearly. We'll probably do this again in August or probably September, because September we get a lot of parents whose kids have been in school 1-2 weeks and are thinking, oh my gosh, I gotta do something different. So if you're not sure, you can still sign up your child for school. You can send them up until September 28th. But please don't leave it to the last day. The school boards really want you to sign up early in September. I'd say, if things aren't working out well by September 15th, get on with a board and go home education this year. It's only 1 year. What could go wrong, right? 1 year. It's interesting to know that of the 10,000 new home education kids, that we acquired from COVID, only 1,500 went back into the system. So 8,500 kids stayed home education. So obviously they liked it. French-speaking homeschooling families, we need to get more resources out there. We have a tiny little section on our website under resources for French. Now, what you can do with French is buy French resources, maybe hire a French tutor, find courses in OutSchool. Remember, you don't have to be the teacher. You can outsource to non-government courses, to your childcare professional. You can, your husband, your partner, your even siblings can teach other siblings, right? You videos, you don't tutors, you could hire a teacher freelance. You can get groups together in co-ops and pods. We did that a lot in high school is for social studies and English. It was nice to get a group of 8 to 10 kids together, meet at the library once a week, show films, read books, talk about it, present, practice public speaking. They had so much fun. Those are things you can do where it's a nice supportive community. And that's what I say, it's community education, not home education. You're not alone, okay? You will be supported. Okay, so check out our French-speaking how to find other French-speaking families. I just get on the Facebook group and try and connect with, ask who speaks French and where do you live? And try and meet up at a park. Home educators do a lot of park days because it's easy to keep the kids busy and it's such connection and nobody has to clean their house. So it's really good. Okay, all right, I'm going to end this here. Thank you everyone for coming. And I hope that helps you in your decision making. If you have any questions that you want more private by asking me tonight, feel free and I will just email me and I will answer your questions. Okay. Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.